Right or wrong, I came to the point that I wanted to go back and summarize what I have done in my life to know where I am, how I got here, so that I can summarize at this point, at age 74, what it is and what's left and what I'm going to do. And posting on YouTube has been an interesting experience. The idea was that many times I thought about writing a book. Since I wrote 3 books, the last one, 2002, Results from the Heart, got forward from Dalai Lama. But since then, I wanted to capture the essence, which I failed. And at this age, writing a book takes so much burden. Plus, I had no idea how to put the ideas synthesized to make a book. And what I've been doing is to look at myself as if in the mirror to make sense of what I have done, why, how I approach my life, and where I am, so that I make the most of what I've got the rest of my life. As it happened, I thought I could build up all the pieces like a building block by talking about my experience from meditation and Zen, including having a calm and quiet mind as the basis for making judgment, and how to come up with the wisdom and go through awakening experience in Vipassana, and how that may have helped me to know who I am, what I do, why, what can be done. As much as that experience took place, the awakening experience took place in the year 2000, and it's been 22 years, and having gone through ups and downs of life, as typical as it could be, I needed to make clear, as if I look at myself in the mirror, to make sense out of who I am, what I do. I had an answer in 2000. The answer was, thy will be done. Because as a person, I have this sense of incompleteness. And I bounce around myself to figure out what the right direction and how to approach it. But at the end, the law of the universe takes place. And that is how I got my life and being here. So nothing can be argued about absolute process of how the universe is functioning. And I call it law of the universe. So that that's the guiding principle. And the Zen and the Shin Buddhism I talked about has been very beneficial, along with the meditation experience and a bunch of others. Again, it's wisdom and compassion and what's the source. And beyond my mind dimension, there's the infinite dimension of the universe that's functioning. There's no argument in my mind. So synthesizing that in some way or the other is one task I have. But at the same time, coming to this point, I wanted to reflect all my life from my birth, maybe a little bit before that, to this point, and describe the journey I have taken and key point, the reference point I gathered, and what happened. I developed 2 videos, 2 recordings on this. One is from the birth to high school day, and the next is the high school and university to start the work, going through divorces, moving to the US from Japan, all sorts of things. And as I was to post that this morning or last night, I started to wonder, there's something not quite right if I post it without qualification of it. And the sense I had is that the description of life's journey is fairly easy. There's events, this happened, how I got influenced. But I thought the result I got out of those recordings, it's something of the nature of coming out of my brain and not so much connected to the heart. In other words, it makes sense, it's easy to follow, and it's on the shiny light that you can see as if you read your resume. But what's missing is, if I may call it, the dark side, what is behind. And this morning I was reflecting my talk with Nakayama-san, who is like my mentor, talking about the Zen and creativity. In one of his books, he mentioned about David Bohm, about this lighter, brighter side of the world, but what's behind, like a darker side of the world. And the darker side is not easy to recognize, but there's some emotion and desire and all the energy that is flowing reflected on my feeling and my brain activity, intelligence. So what I realized that is that when I write this life's journey and reflect on what happened, why, and who I am, I'm looking at only the lighter side that is describable. But what's behind the darker side, not easy to recognize, put words, but there's something in there, including this thy will be done, the law of the universe manifesting in some form or the other. And that part, I thought I wasn't doing a good job. So after listening to what I recorded, I could say that there are things that I need to discuss, but it's very personal, internal way, and even to the point of perhaps I can say embarrassing or something that nobody wants to talk about. But unless I capture that, I thought I cannot complete my research or reflection to look at myself in the mirror. So what I've got is a few ideas that I want to clarify. One is the context of what I'm doing with this life's journey and the reflection, how I'm maybe doing, still going forward. But what's behind is very undescribable, but it's important part of who I am. And I don't know how to address that, but what I'm trying to do here is just point out some of the ideas behind how I might want to address it. One of the ideas that I thought about was coming from Konosuke Matsushita, who is known to be the best manager in running the company. And he's written so many books, and there are a lot to be talked about. But one of the sentences I liked by reflecting on what he has done is that if we follow the truth, the universal truth, as our way for the destiny, the desire that we have for us to accomplish in our life, there is no failure. In other words, if we can align to the way of the universe, there's no failure. Which this sentence point is agreeable from my point of my awakening and the point I mentioned about the thy will be done. And further, interestingly, that even though he doesn't have much of a religious experience, but he had this intuitive sense characterizing things without the religious expression. And his expression related to what I just said about that sentence about the truth of the universe to be the way that we should operate, conduct our life, is humble state that he shared. The word I may have mentioned already is snow mind. The mind is meek, quiet, calm, open, almost like my notion of no mind, like a Zen-like state of awareness. And if you have that, you come up with a good judgment. I think that was his point. And therefore, if you come to the good judgment, you won't have any failure in living life. So even though he doesn't have strong religious sense, as much as all the religion talk about, but his intuition and how he lived his life represent by itself as if he's a bodhisattva, meaning he has the mind awakened and listen to the law of the universe, in my term. And therefore, in this book, he talks about whatever will happen, the proportion of what you want to do with your own will, his own will, is 10%. Very tiny amount that is connected to the will of that individual being, which is himself. And then 90% of what happened is driven by something else. And I think that was very profound. And that says page 114 of one of the book I have. The Japanese title is Omou Mama, as you think, maybe the translation. So he was writing his book, well, kind of similar to what I do with the YouTube video recording. I just pop up go through some thinking and idea pops up and I post that on the YouTube. I think I may have picked up the same idea from Matsushita, that he's got books written under the title Omou Mama, as you feel or think. So that is on the page 114 in that book, Omou Mama, as he thinks, was those comments. And that seemed to fit to the way I have been thinking and approaching life. But I realized to be able to communicate to myself, clarify, as if watching my mirror and believe this is what I believe and practice this is what I practice, there's additional effort to be made to synthesize various ideas in a simple term if possible, although I have been working on that for many recordings of the videos. But at this moment, reflection of all the journey, the process I took, combined with all the influence I got from Daisetz Suzuki, Buddha's teaching, Eckhart Tolle, Nakayama, Shinran, and many others, I wanted to still capture in some way or the other. And the effort to capture that perhaps is more important than what is the result of it, because that's the process of how I approach it. And for that reason, I want to spare some time, whatever time it takes, to make that clarity to be self-evident for myself. And if there's anyone who is watching or listening to this, may benefit. The number one purpose is for my own, because I have lived my life in a specific way, and the audience, if there is, may have lived their life in their own specific way. And therefore the words, the concept, the ideas I share about with my experience may or may not connect to the other person. So the main audience probably is for myself, but for the sake of my accountability, in the sense of I'm doing the best I can, I'm using this platform of YouTube. As it turned out, what's interesting is that in that part one of my journey of life, toward the end, I was talking about exchanging my diary with my friend at the last year in high school. And that experience was very interesting, that I have my view of the world, subjectivity, and 1 week later we share his view of what he's doing in his life in the high school kid, and compare it and exchange the idea back and forth. What I feel I have been doing on YouTube is doing the same without him as the audience. It's like a dark universe out there I'm communicating, and try to make sense out of it by me being sincere and truthful. And the response from the dark universe, just like the bomb talking about the dark side, that is the connection of the law of the universe I'm trying to get to by being sincere and truthful. And I sense that Matsushita's way of living may have some similar, or maybe this is what I got out of him, that he's got the similar idea of being truthful, sincere, and find a way. And as a result, what he found is that his effort and view and insight may be still a small portion. And the major portion is that the wisdom of the universe. And in his view, he shared how he connected to that, including discussing with people or sharing things in the books and developing organization reflecting on his belief, and he get involved in the process to successfully run the business, sharing the idea, not his own, but having everybody involved in what they do, so that everybody is becoming participating and sort of chasing or finding destiny on their own. And that is the same concept I shared in the mini company. Each element of the organization explore their best, and the management role is that there's the orchestration process to synthesize those ideas. And then in the last book I shared with the word from the Dalai Lama, the result from the heart, is to use that same concept within each person for myself. So instead of a mini company to make best of what they've got, I have my cells, neurons, all the body functions to do their own best. And for me to have a way of finding the passage so that I can break up the bottleneck to be enlightened, so that it makes sense for my own. Not just the brain, but also dark side of myself, unrecognizable. That's where the universe, the intelligence of the universe is functioning. So organization, individual, same, me, Matsushita, and others, and as a human race, the possibility is that we can enrich the way of our life and trying to make the most of what we've got. So it's probably a far-fetched idea, but that's the kind of an intuitive sense. Still, I have work to do so that I can bridge the gap between me and Matsushita. As much as I have shared the idea already with Daisetz Nakayama and others, I want to bring in Matsushita at this stage. So not just I'm talking about the spiritual end of it, but how the spiritual end is connected to the society's end of it, and that bridge the gap so that I'm not just focusing my own insight, optimize, but while I clarify my flow of energy and the way of life, but it somehow has a way of connection so that as a whole, thy will be done. The law of the universe, the truth of the universe may function so that we all approach life without much failure. As he says, with the right initiative and based upon the truth of the universe, there is no failure. In life, in business, in the society's setting, and very idealistic way, but if we have some sense of characterizing this, I think that would help me and possibly others, even though my base of these references from Japan, Matsushita, Daisetz, or Nakayama, many people may not know it, but the essence of what they are sharing, if there's truth, there must be a way that we can share to make sense out of it. Thank you.